Welcome to my Solu legacy. Let's get started in Chapter 1, Home.
Omaha, Nebraska sits on the far east side of the state, right along the Missouri River, and boasts a population of close to 1 million people. A little more of a metropolis than the standard idea of what exists there. And the crack, it adds a lot. And not only did I live in this kind of hilly, forested, beautiful playground just outside the city, but we had a horse farm there, which lent to one of the greatest upbringings I think children could really experience, being able to have this amazing backyard filled with wildlife and nature and adventure and, scary endeavors, but just the availability of imagination being right there in, this nature that a lot of people don't really get to experience. This unharnessed, not crazy wild, we're not in the middle of the Yukon, but it's still wild. All the while not being but 20 minutes from anything you'd want to do in the so-called booming metropolis of Omaha, but I live 15 minutes away from school, 20 minutes away from, my furthest friends, movie theaters, grocery stores, shopping, there's concerts, parks, fishing, all of it, just 20 minutes away. And some people aren't even 20 minutes away from a park, let alone anything that they could want. So I guess the title, Best of Both Worlds, just builds off of the sort of country mouse, city mouse, that lifestyle that I grew up in. And that's definitely shaped me to what I've become. That's what I think about when I think about home, is there wasn't really a compromise, unless you consider being a Midwesterner in Nebraska as a compromise, but when you grow up in it, you learn to love it. And it's a hard duality to find anywhere else. You can get the city, you can get the outdoors, you can get the friends, you can have the activity, but to have it all right there, a stone's throw away from each other, and to have that be home, your home where you grew up, having a horse looking in your bedroom window from the pasture across the driveway, that makes you proud. And that's what I get to go home to, and that's where my family is. And no matter how near or far I am, going around the world, seeing new places, that's where I come from, and I will never have any regrets about it. Yeah.
Coming back into my legacy, I'm going to navigate a few chapters here and read a couple stories about my recent trip to Fiji. June 4th, 2016. Any reason to visit LA and I will take it. This time, the reasoning was well-priced flights to Fiji flying out of LAX. So with last-minute notice, my friend Chase Pake picked me up at the airport to have a few days of fun only college roommates know, before setting off to the South Pacific. We did the usual, making dinner, shopping, having fancy drinks, etc. But what really left an impact on me was the street art tour we did in the Santa Fe district of downtown Los Angeles. As many times as I have stayed in LA, I had not spent much time in downtown proper. Perhaps because it's on the edge of gentrification and houses the LA County Jail and bail bond shops on most corners. However, these adverse conditions often lead to seeking a voice through art, hence the street art tour. I've done several street art tours around the world, and I enjoy the sense of local understanding you can gain, more so than from walking through a museum. Included are a few shots of my favorite pieces along the way. While in town, Chase and I also went shopping in Venice Beach, attended a First Friday party and food truck event, played pool at Q's, drank delicious smoothies, and so on. A perfect 3 days with an old friend before flying across the Pacific to begin another adventure. I headed out of LAX at 11 p.m. on Saturday night and woke up in Nadi, Fiji. June 7th, 2016. We arrived by boat at 11 a.m. yesterday, just hours after arriving in Fiji. As I wake up on a Tuesday, I see a naked 7-year-old boy trot past my window, catching the sunshine of a new and limitless day. I also notice the super cute little curtain fabric square with purple paisley butterflies in hearts that create just enough of a barrier between our privacy and the rhythm of the village. I also realize the floor-to-ceiling spider web in the corner filled with thin spiders captured on their way to eat. As I look at the red and gold wallpaper tiled floor, there are a few notes to capture from day one. Mostly the life occurring as we lounged in the sun on the beach, watching the tide disappear, receding while reading about the end of the world and watching Brett snooze away with nothing to do. I'm currently reading Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which is about the world ending. Kind of puts things in perspective, being on a very, very small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, far away from home. Anyway, more and more pairs of people wandered through the exposed coral looking for shells, looking for fish, maybe even looking for answers. Then there were the dogs, a footloose gang of 3 fishing in the recently accessible ponds, sometimes running amok through the rocks and water, other times tiptoeing on their paws and pouncing at just the right moment. I don't think they caught any. Perhaps they're just young, like the group of children playing make-believe in the beach boat beside me, taking turns calling out their names and running to the shore. Before I had time to witness the change, the tide was fully out and exposing what lies beneath. Each boat moored offshore now sat on the ground looking artful and stranded. We finished the night drinking kava and Fiji bitter with Felipe and others who came and went.
June 9, 2016. The tour allows one to realize the village you've been, not intentionally, but blatantly ignoring. No rent, no electricity, no work, true Fiji time. The island proudly homes 300 residents, 2 villages, and 5 religions. The evidence of the cyclone in February, Winston, displays strongly, yet still leaves unclear whether the village has not been restored or they need not our decor, cleanliness, and organization. There is a market, no credit accepted, and a chief. A few touches of home include upside-down bottles around the base of trees forming their interpretation of landscaping. Is there a graveyard on the island? What do they do with the dead? Thoughts of mortality. Shacks are scattered about, made of wood, cinder blocks, metal, and scraps. One home boasted a gutter and water collecting system. Many have an elevated deck area, for a place to sit during rains or a draft with the heat. Everyone says bula, and local conversations appear to be central to life. Children play amongst the tall, sprawling, and shaded yup-yup trees. They remind me of the Tree of Life. Island style and sufficient in size for the needs of these islanders. The children appear quite happy. Will they remember the darkness during the cyclone? We pass the community field en route to school. Locals gather each evening to play rugby, handball, and volleyball, except on Fridays, as the Adventist church will have service then instead of Saturdays. Do weekends matter here? The school impresses, freshly painted and set against a hillside, a facade with painted rocks and landscaping organized by Americans and Brazilians that spend months teaching the children. The grounds emit an area of nourishment and learning. A yuck-yuck tree shades the played area. Cleanliness is like godliness is painted on a sign nailed to the trunk. A homemade teeter-totter rests under its branches' reach. A pretty slim cat circles between our feet after reading its ear scratch as an invitation to join along. The leader tells us about Mana, about the resort. If you don't work for them, then you sell fish caught with a spear, and if you don't fish, then you don't work. The resort owns most of the island. Hearing this, you look around, realizing the simplicity and authenticity will never last. The resort gets money from Survivor to film here. Yes, the television show that premiered in 2000 is still a thing and consuming beauty across the globe to satiate the reality television needs. The resort allows them to close half the island for filming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 2 to 3 months. Next year it will be for a full year. Are you not entertained? They claimed and closed the peaks of the island, the beach behind the village, and the local snorkeling reef. It's bad for business, yes. No matter how far you go, the reach proves severe to escape. The first backpacker hostel in Fiji was and is on this island, Mana Island. Was it enough then? You notice a squash plant sprawling, walking back to the haven.